Coco's crafting table. Lovely to see you. My name is Rachel. Coco, oh, as I speak, she jumps on the table. Coco is the cat that likes to be annoying while I've got things out on the crafting table. So thank you so much for dropping in, and before you all race off, because I know some of you won't stay, I just would like to say thank you very much for anybody who's left me a comment on any of my previous videos or who has liked or subscribed. And I'm going to make an apple crumble when I've got a certain number of subscribers, and I'm really looking forward to having an apple crumble. I was so close yesterday and I thought, but it's not quite there yet. So I shall have to wait for my apple crumble. So today I have got an update on 7 projects. 7, or I think that's probably all my projects I've managed to do a little bit of this week. And so I'm going to start off with knitting. And before the cat chews my knitting needles, as she loves chewing anything, I'll show you I've finished a sock. So this is a very brightly coloured sock, but we're halfway through the month of March 2026 and I'm halfway through a pair of socks. So the yarn I'm using for these is West Yorkshire Spinners Signature Range 4-ply sock yarn, and it's in the colourway Spring Green, which is very bright, probably brighter than you can see on the video at the moment. And it comes in a 100-gram ball, 75% wool, 25% nylon, and it says it contains 35% blue-faced Leicester. The circular needle that I'm using is a 2.25mm 80cm circular needle. It's an Addy needle, and I think I probably need to dip the cables in some hot water. I think that might make them, where they've gone a bit pointy, come back to normal again. Either that or I might have a new needle. So I'm very pleased with my oh sorry, Coco just prodded her with the end of my sock blocker. So the next project for knitting is my hat. This year I'm having a go at colour work. I'm trying to do more colour work. So the first piece of colour work I'm doing this year is a hat called the Buggy Fleur Beanie, and I'll just find you a picture of it because I've got it just here in my whips folder. So it's going to look like that, in that colourway. I had a bit of a struggle, I mentioned on a previous video, working out which colour was which, because the instructions give me 5 other colourways in different yarns, but not this particular one. But I think I've got it worked out, what I need to do. The pattern, it was written by Alison Rendell and published in 2023, and that's the colourway on the pattern. I got my kit from Lucy Locketland, and the yarn I'm using is Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift. So I've got Ivy, which is a lovely green. I've got Amber. I love orange. My granddaughter and I, one of my granddaughters and I both love orange. I've got the colour Esit, which is like an oatmeal colour. There's 2 balls of that because that's the main colour yarn. And then I've got Chestnut, which is a sort of a reddish brown. A yellowy one called Gold, and finally this dark, reddy, darker brown called Peat. And those are all the colours that are going to be in the hat, and I'm hoping it's going to fit me because I do like all these colours. Well, I'll show you where I've got to, shall I? I've got this far, and I'm thrilled to bits that I've got this far. This is the second colour work hat I've made. I made one at the back end of last year, that I showed on a previous video, the curlew hat, and I've got this far, and I don't know if I'm meant to show you what the back looks like, but that's what my floats look like on the back. I have sort of tried it on around my head. It might be going to be a bit loose, I don't know, but I don't know. I have tried not to knit too tightly. So I would also like to share with you 3 things that I have found really useful, that I've discovered for myself while attempting colour work. So the first of these 3 things that help me greatly is the use of stitch markers. So I've been putting a stitch marker at the end of every round that I've done, so that I know exactly where the round is finishing, because as it goes round in a spiral, I could so easily lose where I'm at. And I am now, because my pattern is a long pattern repeat, I'm now using a stitch marker, one of these little round ones, in at the beginning and end of each pattern repeat, so that I'll know on the next round that I am at the right place on my pattern repeat, and if I'm not there, I won't have so much to undo than if I didn't have those in there at all. Do you use stitch markers when you're knitting? I expect you do. When I'm using two colours in my colour work like this, hello, are you looking? Then I will have one on one side of me and one on the other to try and prevent tangles. Obviously, when I'm having to catch the floats at the back, then it does get into a tangle, but I undo it immediately so that I'm not left with a whole round full of tangles. So the third thing that I like to do when I'm reading a chart from anything, I do this as well when I'm reading a chart for mosaic crochet, I transfer the number of stitches on the row from the chart onto a little post-it note or a piece of paper. Now I know you can't see this, so I'll demonstrate on my little whiteboard what I mean. So if I've got a multi-stitch pattern repeat, so for example I'm on a 34 stitch pattern repeat, I'll just jot that down at the top, and I know I'm going to have 25 rows in this block of pattern. So starting at the bottom as you do, I would then go along and write numbers. So at the moment I'm on a row of pattern. I know it's a round on my hat, but a row on the block that needs me to do 5 stitches in that colour, and then it needs me to do 2 stitches in that colour, and then after that I can just write the numbers down. So I can write all that, and then I'll write that and that and that and that and that and that. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11, and that should all add up to this. So I just double check that it adds up so I haven't missed any stitches, and then that's my pattern repeat. So I don't have to keep looking back at the chart. I do usually like to write down the last colour, what the last colour should be, and so the last colour in this case is that one, just so that I know when I get to the end of the round that I have got the right colour. And so I can just keep looking at my numbers instead of having to go back and look at the tiny chart. And you might think that takes ages and you perhaps don't need to do that, but for me it saves me an awful lot of time having to keep going back to the chart, because I'll lose my place. Even if I stick my post-it note where I am, I will still have to start from the beginning every time because I can't remember where I'm at. So that's how I keep track of my colour work. Now, if you have any tips, if you do colour work and you have any more tips that you could tell me, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. Do you knit? I don't know. I don't know if you knit. I don't know if you crochet. But today, as well as showing my knitting and saying thank you very much in advance for leaving me a comment, I'm also going to talk about my 2 sewing projects that I have made progress in. And I'll show you my art project. I think we've got time for that today. And then we'll finish off with my 2 crochet projects that I have made progress in as well. So we'll be back in a minute with some sewing. So now I've got a nice quick sewing update. So please stay with me and then I can show you the rest of the things that I've been doing. This is a kit that I have completed. It's called the Landscape Summer Kit. It's by Louise Nichols. So I've managed to complete it. It's not finished, it's just a piece of applique, an embroidery, a piece of textile art, I suppose you would call it. I need to find something to put a backing on and some wadding because it doesn't come with the kit anymore. Things like that used to come in the kit and now they don't. So I need to find my own because I want to do something with it. I don't want to make it into a cushion or a bag, so I'll just make it into a hanging. You can see I've got different stitches. There's some couching coming down there, some running stitches throughout. I've got little tiny stitches going around all the felt pieces. There are some French knots around, red ones and black ones on there, and lots of running stitch in the sky. I hope you'll be able to see that. I really enjoy making Louise's kits. This is the fourth one I've made actually, and I've just sent for another one which is a bit Christmassy, so I'll be able to show you that later in the year. I have finished another patchwork square for my Peter Rabbit quilt. You may remember last week I showed you a very wonky square that I'd made. It's even on the picture on the thumbnail of last week's podcast. And I did say it was just going to stay as it was. I wasn't going to do anything with it. Life's too short. Well, I unpicked it. I thought, I can't leave it like that. I can't leave it like that. So I unpicked it, ironed it, hoped that the holes wouldn't show too much, and I've re-sewn it, but this time I've sewn it by hand, which it's supposed to have been anyway, using backstitch. The block's called A Basket of Flowers, and this part was incredibly wonky last week, but I think the whole lot is not quite as wonky as it was, and hopefully will be all right to go in the quilt. I redrew all the lines on the back because you have to draw them with a pencil. I thought about drawing them with a heat erase pen, and then I thought, oh no, because each time I press it, it'll disappear. So I didn't want to do water erase because I know I'm not going to wash it. So I've used a pencil and I've done my back stitch, and that block is now complete. So I haven't done another block, just that one. So that's my sewing update for this week. Now, if you've been here before, you might know that I like to have a little dabble in watercolours. I'm not an artist. I only bought my paints last year. I've never painted before, but I love things like mixing colours and making value scales and just seeing what happens when you drop water onto wet paper. When you drop paint onto wet paper. But I was watching Marion from Marion's World, who you probably know very well, and I'll leave the link to her channel in the description box below. But Marion has made for the last 2 years a Phenology Wheel. It is basically something you can make, you can construct out of paper, paint, you can use collage, you can use any media that you like, but basically it's to do with noticing things in nature outside, what's happening throughout the year. And so I followed the instructions from Marion's World, and if you go on there, she's got lots of videos from that, and this is what I've come up with. Now, I cannot compare myself with Marion's skills. This is my Phenology Wheel. It's nowhere near as good as anybody else's, but it's my skill level where I'm at the moment. So this was January, and I wasn't sure whether to show it or not, but I've decided I will, because if it inspires any of you to pick up your paints and have a go at something, then anybody can have a go, can't they? It doesn't have to be wonderful. It's just yours, and it's at your own skill level. So in January, I went outside every day, took a photograph of the sky, and I came indoors and I painted it, but I didn't actually paint it every day. I sort of did it over a block of 3 or 4 days, and then I painted those photos. But I did use the photo from the day. I've got the maximum and minimum temperatures written on these inner circles, and all these little trees, winter trees, are around in each segment as well, because that's what I could see. I took my photo from exactly the same place every day, and I could see the little trees. So those were the different skies in January. So I then did February, and I was very behind with this, and I didn't know what to do for February. So I looked back at what Marion had done again, and she'd done twigs. So I'll show you. I don't know if I've ever mentioned, but the pictures up here were painted by my 3 granddaughters when they were aged 6, 7 and 10, and they could have done an equally a job probably better than I've managed to do for my February twigs, because they're very childlike and very, very simply painted, but that's the level I'm at, so that's what I'm doing. So to begin with, I went out on my local walk, took a photograph, and again, I didn't go out every day. I took several photographs sometimes, and I ended up having to go to the garden centre to get these final ones because I'd run out of different twigs and different things. And also, I don't know the names of the trees and the bushes and things to write on my wheel, but I've had a go. I've had a go at it, and I'm going to carry on putting the maximum and minimum temperatures around and do a pattern in the middle. And then we've come to March. And again, I'm very behind. We're already in the middle of March. I'm very behind with it, but I have managed to draw out my my wheel. onto my art paper, and I've started to draw some birds on there because this time I'm looking at birds, but I'm doing this very differently. I'm not photographing birds. I'm noticing which birds I've seen and heard around me during the month of March, and I've got a list that's growing, and it may get stuck at about 15, in which case I'll pop down to the marina and see if I can see any water birds around, and if I can't, then I might do male and female birds or whatever. I'll work out somehow to try and get 31 different pictures of birds on here. So I'm starting off with their heads and their beaks. I might end up doing tails or whatever, and this time I'm tracing them out of pictures from a book, and I'm going to then fill in with the watercolours in the right colours if I can. So again, it's going to be very simplistic, possibly even whimsical by the time I finish doing it, but I'll just have a go. Just have a go and see what happens. Why not? So that's my art project. If you're still here with me, thank you for staying. I've just got 2 more things to update you on about my crochet that I've been doing this week. So first one is my blanket. Here it is so far, and I am loving it. Oh, it's gorgeous. I'll try and hold it up a bit better so we can talk about what's happening. So this is the Coastal Retreat blanket written by Coastal Crochet pattern, and it's designed by Eleonora Tully, the designer behind Coastal Crochet. And I love the waves and the way that the top of the wave has been worked in the back loops only to make them stand out. And then we had a bit of sand at the bottom, then we've got sea, we've got some shells here and probably some seaweedy things coming up here in different colours. I love these. And then we've got a very pretty lemon peel stitch coming in here, and look at the little hearts that are appearing in there. I'm not sure if they're representing anything particular, but I'm on my lemon peel row across here at the moment, and I am absolutely loving the colours and the stitches. It is a stripy blanket, but the stitches are interesting, and that's why I like them. I couldn't sit in front of the television and do it because I know I'd go wrong, but then I can't sit in front of the television with any crochet or knitting because I will go wrong with it. Yes, so I'm really enjoying this. I'm making a lap size blanket again because I've got too many, so it's sort of this size. I've got too many blankets upstairs in my airing cupboard. It's full now, and so I think I might make a video of blankets one time, and then I can start passing them on to somewhere else because I like making blankets, so I don't want to stop making them just because I'm running out of room. So that's how far I've got with my crochet blanket. I'm using Wendy Supreme DK and Emu Classic DK and Starcraft Special DK, all as a mix and match in my blanket, and it's absolutely fine. And I know I'm going to be able to pop it in the washing machine and tumble dry it, and it will come out absolutely fine. I just know it will. So we're on to our last project, and it's a finished one. Can you see? Ooh. And here she is. Here's Beatrix Potter. Perhaps I shouldn't show you next to the picture because she probably doesn't look completely the same. But I am more than happy that she's finished. It's my first Toft doll that I've made. I'm not sure if I will make another one because I've not loved making it, and they are quite expensive, aren't they, to make? But I've got lots of yarn left. Oh, I can quickly show you what I've got left. I'll finish telling you about Beatrix Potter first though. So here she is. I've actually sewn all her clothes on. Look, she's got little boots with little laces. Can you see them? On there. And then her dress, I don't think I did the pleats quite right, but they're okay, aren't they? And I've sewn the belt down, I've sewn the dress on, and I've sewn the boots on, so my granddaughters won't be able to undress her. And then she's got a pretty little shawl around there. I could take her off the stand, I suppose. she won't be able to stay off the stand because unfortunately she's got a very wonky head, and she had a bit of a wonky head already before I added all the extra yarn for the hair. There's almost a whole ball of yarn on there for the hair because you have to put the rest of the ball on. It's inside the hat. And then you've got the hat with all the flowers on it. But there's her shawl. A pretty little shawl. I had to make the shawl twice because the first one I made with the recommended hook size that I'd used for the rest of the doll, but I don't know if my crochet, it has come out bigger. The doll might have come out bigger than expected, and the shawl wouldn't reach, so I did it again, and it didn't take long at all, with a size 4 hook instead of a 3. And then the hat is a little straw hat, and you bend it round. You sew this on through the hat, and bend it round and tie a knot, and then stitch that so it won't come undone. And then you make the little tiny flowers. And I had a little spare one. Oh, spare one there. Poor Beatrix is looking down. Oh dear. So I'm going to pop you back in your stand, Beatrix. When I first popped her into the stand this morning, I thought, well, she's too big for the stand. She won't go on it. So I was putting the stand under her arms and it looked horrible, and her head was all like this. This bit here is adjustable. You just pull it up and down, so you can put different sized finished dolls in the stand if you want to. I'm going to pop Beatrix back up there just to finish off, and this is my big my box of Toft yarn that's left over from, I must have ordered other things. I know I ordered a fairy doll that I haven't made, and these are from the dragon that I made, and I might have even ordered 3 dragon packs when I only needed 2 because I hadn't ordered the beads with one. I thought you had to order the beads separately, and then I ordered a beaded one and whatnot. But so I've got all of this left, and now I've got a book of sheep, but I've also got a book of other things. Well, I can make yellow sheep, can't I, if I fancy? They can be whimsical, anything, can't they, really? So I want to try and use up some of that Toft yarn, so we'll have to watch this space and see what happens next with my yarn. If you're still here with me, I feel as if I've been gabbling a bit, so I will try and calm down, but I was very excited and I really would like my apple crumble. So if you're still here with me, do consider subscribing, please, because if I get to my target, I won't tell you what it is, but when I get to my target, and I'll make my apple crumble, and I'll tell you next week if I managed it or not, because I won't make it if I don't get there with my number of subscribers. Thank you so much for watching. I've tried to keep it short and sweet, and I hope I'll see you again at some point. Bye for now.